Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Spines and Spirits podcast. I'm one of your hosts tonight. My name is Adam, and I am trying to fight off all these binders chills.
Now I'm Gerald, spelled with a G, and I'm looking for my little Mufay.
So you guys can tell it's just the boys tonight. We're not sure how this is going to look going forward because Christy is saying that, she's kind of in the midst of starting a new job and everything, and our little ones are getting ready to start school, so she's feeling a little overwhelmed and wanting to back off for a minute. But if it is just us moving forward, you're in good hands. So we're going to mix things up tonight. Normally we would do like a chapter by chapter walkthrough / breakdown, but to keep the conversations moving and to kind of stop all of the kind of small, like 1 to 2 page chapters that don't have a lot in them, we're going to pick sections. And tonight we're going to be doing chapters 50 to 59. There's a little bit of kind of everything that goes on in this section, so it should be a fun one to test, and we'll see how it goes. But before we even get to that, we're living in the name of the wind. That's the spines part of our name. Gerald, do you want to tell them about the spirits?
Yes. Y'all know the mantra already. These ain't the spirits that go bumping in the night. If you're looking for those spirits, check out Full Moon Empty Road channel. But no, we're the spirits you like to take a nice long sip. Oh, good God. Sip, slide.
Sip, slide.
Yeah.
Cheers. We're sipping on one of our favorites tonight. Gerald, what is it?
It is the Buffalo Trace again.
That is 90 proof, and it is smooth. So smooth. You could step, slide. So I will lead us off, I guess, Gerald. One of the big points that I wanted to bring up tonight, kind of wanted to see what your thoughts, your opinions, maybe. Yeah, I guess we'll stick to that because we can't really call these truths. I guess it is a fictional world. Anyway, it had to do with Binder's Chills, and I felt like that was a big player in this section of the book. It starts off where he kind of breaks down Binder's Chills. It goes through the duel. You see the severe effects of it. Talks about how somebody could just slip off and die. You go even as far as to later on where he's at the Eolian, and Ambrose kind of appears that he's experiencing Binder's Chills. Number one, did you enjoy the way, or do you enjoy the way that with this give and take, I guess, on the magic system, how, if you're using your own body as a catalyst, that the way Patrick Rothfuss kind of causes it to, I don't even know how I'm trying to say it, basically have the effects of whatever action you've taken to use that magic and that sympathy.
Basically, I love how it brings the real world, the physical, energy is neither created nor, what is that?
Neither created nor destroyed.
Yeah, neither created nor destroyed. Yeah, and this is basically how I figured how his magic system kind of goes with it. I mean, you have to, energy. Energy is energy, so you got to pull it for something. It's not just, it's matter. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing a poor example on explaining this to the physics world. I mean, the real world, but yeah.
Is there something that you would, relate that to in the real world? I guess what you think about
with fire, I guess. You start a fire, you have to have something to ignite the fire and something to consume the fire. It's not just made with the snap of your fingers. You have to prepare. It's the best way I can explain it,
So I might be going a little deep, and I'm trying to tie it into something else we're going to get later tonight. Is to me, the way that he describes sympathy, and I don't even want to say just sympathy, but with using your body for Binder's Chills, it kind of broke down to almost how you could view relationships and building, creating, destroying, whatever it is, whether we're talking acquaintances, friends, lovers, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, whatever, children, the more that you really force yourself to put into it, there comes times where you sacrifice a part of yourself to become, more a piece of that puzzle. And at the same time, you can do exactly the reverse. You can put just as much harmful energy out there, which, I wish sometimes when you run into things like that, they could be put on trial for malfeasance, but that doesn't work that way.
No.
But with the relationship that we'll see budding between he and Denna, there is that give and take. Like, you can't deny that it's there. And it's almost like one of them is always experiencing binder's chills because they're putting so much into it at one point, but it seems like they never mesh. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that. Yeah, I can see what you're going with the binder's chills. Because readers, viewers, as you will come to find out if you have not read this book already, and just follow this by chapter, they do this slow dance, if you want to say. They are like Adam was trying to say, you give a push and a pull, and they never just actually intertwine with each other. So yeah, I can see the bonding shields, because you're spending forth energy, and you're using your own resources to either how they explain it here, either not you use so much of it you start to lose yourself, and if you don't get help you end up sleeping, going through the stones of sleep, and then finally to the stone of death, really. So
yeah, that was
4
nice.
doors.
Yeah. you love doors. I think we said that before.
Yeah, before doors there. Yeah.
That was one thing I wanted to talk about, though, is just in this particular section, it seemed like the lead up to Binder's Chills and then Denna and Quoth talking, I was like, there's a certain kind of comparison that could be made, and the fact that it is Binder's Chills. They're bound one way or another. We don't know what it is yet because, we want to address that elephant in the room, but yeah, so that's kind of all I wanted to hit on as far as Binder's Chills go for this particular section. But I guess just to keep the conversation going, Gerald, what was one of your favorite things that you wanted to bring up when it comes to 50 to 59?
It's a quote really that I've really enjoyed. That Quoth is telling. I'll paraphrase that way just in case. He goes in. He's reliving the story, but he's still telling the story, if that can make sense to y'all. And he goes in trying to explain how Denna looks to him, and he was like, lying will be easier than telling you how I feel or how she makes me feel or how I can describe her, is basically and basically he goes with I have a memory like what's the steel they use, Bramson steel kind of thing, and he's like, I can relay from 100 different stories and woven in a lot so brilliant that you think it's the truth, really. And it makes you wonder for a minute. You're like, okay, Quoth, you already said that lying comes very easy to you, and you're a master. I ain't gonna say master manipulator. That's what I said last time.
He's a pathological liar, is what it comes across as there.
It seems like it, but I think it's more where is he taking what Scarfy says to too much of a realness. Too much of the truth stacks you. Got those little lies in there to make it more interesting. Is that what he's doing? Because the chronicler says there's still stories told about you. Matter of fact, I heard those stories. So there has to be some truth in it. It's not like it's this mythical creature Nothing is just said like as you would say, like a tablet in the grate.
You care if I chime in on that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just leading up to that point, I thought it was very, very interesting that chapter, I think it's chapter 56, ends with one word. And that one word is beautiful. It's where, you know, he kind of has that break and he's going to say, like, he doesn't know how to describe Denna.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that the lady brought up a few times, and talking about how she used eelish knots to weave the word beautiful into her hair. I didn't pay attention to that so much, I guess, in the early reads that I had, but in this one, it did strike me because the whole time that she's trying to tell everyone she's projecting this I'm beautiful or beautiful or whatever it is, I don't know. It ends with beautiful. It does say when he finally describes her hair was straight, so she didn't have the knot in her hair. When she's playing all these other parts and playing all these other characters with different names, that maybe the true meaning to her name is beautiful, and she almost wears it as like a, you know, it's a way to show that she is who she is while playing these false parts, and Quoth names her in that moment, but people hear the word that they can relate it to in their mind, which is beautiful.
Yeah, I could say that. I can, you know, because in the second book, and like I said, we try not to jump from book to book. As Quoth starts to learn how to read Shelley's knots, Denna was playing with her hair, and she was tying the knots into beautiful, and she knew that Quoth could read it, and she straightens it out. So I think it hit you on the head. You can cut that if you want to, because that was a big spoiler for the second book.
That's fine.
But yeah, I think it reiterates what you're saying about, to Quoth, he named her beautiful, in which could have been also, you know, different her name.
And there's other pieces of that, and this actually flows right into my next point, which is naming for this chapter, because I had that down, number one, so that worked out perfectly that you wanted to talk about how he describes her, because I thought that could be him placing a name on her. He meets Ari, which you'll come to find out later, she's never given him his name. He names her Ari, like his little moon fae. Even more than that, though, like if we keep going to the next piece, which is something, again, didn't pick up on the first few times I read it, which is why we have this podcast now. Diok. Sim, I want to say with Sim or Will, is like, you know, he hates it when people try to suck up to him and you offered to buy him a drink. Quoth is like, Diok, that means to drink. Allow me to buy you one later. Do you think, again, I'm hitting with Quoth and his naming skills without realizing it, that he's seen this guy? Maybe Diok doesn't mean to drink. I don't know, because he never says what language his name came from, right? As far as I know, at least. But he sees it, and he's like, that means to drink. Allow me to buy you one. And Diok's just like, I like you, my dude.
Well, it also goes with, like later on you'll find out, well, it's not really later on. I will say that previous episodes, I said that Quoth has a knack for naming.
You did.
And I think this is one of the things that shines out. And like when he says certain things, it surprises even him, because it's just, you just really just in the moment saying stuff. Because if for that same instant, you remember Sam was like, "Oh my gosh, next time warn me before you do something crazy like that." You know, he owns this place. You just basically, we could have been thrown out, and I mean literally thrown out. You know, and Quoth's like, "What? I just, you know, it was simple as breathing to Quoth." And then when he finds the, you know, what could have happened, he gets a little, oh shoot, well, is he's important? Who's that, you know, warn me before I start doing, you know, stuff like that kind of thing. And that's why I love the other owner, what's his name?
Stanchion.
Well, no, was it Stanchion that said it? No, it wasn't Stanchion. It was Diok. Diok's like, Sim, did you bring us this one? I don't think we can take and he still like.
I think it was Stanchion because I think it was after he plays. Yeah, Stanchion's
okay.
like.
Was it after he played? I thought it was before he played, and he was like I don't think we can take. No one can actually take him anywhere really. So,
it could have been, but it was somewhere in that moment.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Honestly, Gerald, that's how I feel about you. Like whenever we go somewhere, Gerald has this. I don't know what it is. People flock to him. People love him. He just has that knack, and everybody that ends up meeting Gerald is just like, So are you the reason? Like, are you the one that we need to thank for bringing Gerald here tonight? And it's like, I don't think you can take this guy anywhere. Like,
yeah, it also gets me in trouble too.
It is a double-edged sword. Yeah. So Gerald, what else you got?
I would say it's nothing really too big. I just love when Quoth starts to play the Lay of
The Lay of Sir Savien Traliard.
Yes, I'm not going to try to repeat that, y'all, because you know what it's going to be. It's going to be and that's not what he said. But no, I love how he starts to play it, and he plays it so beautifully. Well, it doesn't really say, but I believe he outdid his father in playing it, especially after the string broke, because he taught himself how to play with 6 strings instead of 7, which is really interesting that he brought back from a memory where his entire life was in shambles to him, and he remembers his playing. Let me rephrase that. His mom was behind the door forgetting. He still remembers how to play 6 strings. I don't know if that seems really significant to me for some odd reason, and I couldn't really pinpoint the reason why.
I agree, and to me, I think it just hammers home the fact that he is probably a singer. I think that whenever he was playing, I don't think those people heard the song. I think they lived the moment. And it kind of comes back to where he said, he sang for 7 days or whatever and had a blind man see color. It goes back to sitting around the campfire at Rowan's caravan and having everyone weep because he's playing what he's feeling in his heart. I really think we're seeing Quoth with, like you said, he's got a knack for naming. And just like where you mentioned that he learns better through music, I think it's a funnel. And as he starts playing, it funnels out to everybody that's listening, and he's naming these. He's not just, he is saying words. But words are but a pale shadow, right?
Yeah.
And he has a way to make them touch everybody's minds and hearts.
Well, it's just like how
beautifully written, by the way. Beautifully written.
I'm with you, Adam, on this point, because we still don't know who the singers are, but you have to say that Quoth is one. Simply because he throws, I want to say Patrick, those little hints about it, or Quoth himself is throwing little hints to us when he's like, hey, when he was studying in the fishery, his sidgery in the fishery, he ends up putting it to music. And that's how he learned it so quickly, because he goes about in these chapters that we're covering that, hey, normally it takes people 1 term, 2 terms. Sometimes they take a half a year to learn it. I learned it in a span. And he goes, why? He's like, because I'm brilliant, because I was driven, and just because I was lucky, plain and simple. But yeah.
Sometimes better lucky than good, but in his case, I just, once he starts putting things to music, it just seems like everything comes together, and we'll see that as we continue on throughout the series,
Yeah.
So real quick, I want to bring up how, we talked about him naming Ari, his little moon fae, and how she approaches him. I did not miss the fact that, one of the gifts that she gives him is a key. And she said that key unlocks the moon. Do you think this is a key to one of the 4 locks on the 4-plated door? Or do you think it actually could be a key that could potentially hold pieces of the moon? Or do you think that that's what they both are, and that whenever you go behind the 4-plated door, you're going to find some of the moon?
You have read the second book, basically. I think we're all spoilers going on. Say you have read the second book, and you have learned of Jax already. And he comes across a tinker, and he has a broken house, basically. I am thinking this broken house is where the university lies. And the other thing that you come to find out is more pieces to the broken house. So if you go with the following story, and I'm being vague on purpose, y'all, forgive me. If you go with the following story, and Jack's owned no broken house, what could it say that he has not returned to put the key, to hide the key, that no one else can capture the moon or release the moon from the Fey world when it's supposed to go in that point? And then that also leads the pack is the 4-plate door in the stacks. Is it the way you get into the Fey world from this way, besides through a moonless night, or the moon night? No, it's moonless night when you wander into the Fey world. Yeah, questions upon questions that needs to be answered. But this is why this podcast is here.
When
to
will they
put
be
theories.
answered?
It will be answered in due time.
All right, Gerald. So what's your next point? Because I talked about Ari and the key.
Quoth, since he borrowed the money from Devi, is working like a madman, because he's like, this is probably going to be my last semester, because whatever money I get, I have to pay Devi, because I am too scared to know what the world is going. She's going to ask me. And she has a...
Let's back up for just a second, because whenever he's talking to Devi about getting the money, what I thought was funny is Devi's like, it's a 4-talent loan, and you pay back at 50% interest at the end of the term. So every term you would owe another 2 talents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quotes is like, I really only need 1 or whatever it is. And she's like, oh, this is not a negotiation.
Yeah.
But then it turns into a negotiation, because she's like, I'll give you 2. You want 2? Like, did you pick up on that? Because I thought that was kind of a mistake, maybe, or maybe the character's just desperate to get Quoth on the hook to owe some potential favor. But
Yeah.
she's like, this is not a negotiation. And
I'm
then
sorry.
immediately flips the script, and she's like, let's negotiate.
Well, we'll move on my thing over here, trying to speak up. I think it's, like you said, if it was trying to get Quoth on the hook. Simple because she heard that Quoth was the new hottest thing at the university, yeah. And she's like, if I could catch him, and I would say this: she already knew that Quoth was kind of like pinning this, really. You know what I'm saying? You could actually tell. Yeah, I think even Quoth says like, yeah, my 2 shirts. You could actually tell they're 2 shirts. You know, I'm so poor that I couldn't even find them. One of my buttons broke, and I couldn't even afford to buy the same color button. I had to do a different kind of button. Same with
His pants.
So she was like, yeah, I think it's part of the game system she likes to play. But yeah, I think it's more of her trying to outwit Quoth, really. Or is it, I would say that part, but then can you think it is just like she's wanting the banter that she said that she didn't get? Like, you're not much for bantering, are you? You know what I mean? I mean, you can play it on multiple ways.
To me,
Mm-hmm.
they are the same character, but with like different luck. Do we know? I can't remember, Gerald. Do we find out why she was expelled? I think we do, don't we?
No.
We don't. Okay.
No. We do. There's just hints that she's because she'll go to her. She was expelled because the master feared a woman being just as gifted.
Man, Chris would have a
masters.
heyday with that.
Yeah, as the masters. And she hates this character. I don't know why she hates this character. It reminds me of someone. That's probably why she hates it.
They're both young prodigies, and I think whenever they look at each other, they see themselves, even though they both think they should be taller. But she is, somebody who's fell out of luck, essentially. Like I said, we don't know exactly what it was.
So you're saying that basically, which technically it's not a bad way to say it, that they're both are similar. They have similar styles. I don't know if they're fit or on the same coin. We kind of say that for Quoth and Denna on the point. But
well, different circumstances. They're the same in their arcanum prowess, whereas
okay,
Denna and Quoth or something. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Just excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you like that. But let me ask you this, just before it loses my tip of my tongue. While it's on the tip of my tongue, do you think the reason why Devi is so interesting to getting in the stacks has something to do with the 4-plate door?
I absolutely think that.
So then if you go with that theory, your theory makes a lot of sense. We actually assume that Quoth gets, maybe that's why it gets expelled, for actually opening the 4-plate door. Like the lock is.
I couldn't find that in your home.
Of course you couldn't, Siri.
Shut up, Siri.
Oh no! Look, I'm telling you. Look, you see how it adds on. We talk about the 4-plate door too much. No, I think in the book he does open the 4-plate door. He does. That's the reason why he gets expelled, and then that might be the reason why Devi got expelled. It's basically all again in the circle. Okay, let me go with this one. It's not really that big of a deal. His voice of Savoy, right?
I've got him as something I want to talk about too. So this works out great. Let's go.
So his voice
maybe
Savoy.
For different reasons though.
Yeah, I think so too. Because this is going on top of my head. That's remembering after Quoth plays beautifully and goes looking for Denna and all this other stuff. He runs into her. She's going by a different name, and Savoy pops up, and Quoth's like, "Oh, you rude."
He's like, "There you are,"
and he's like, "Here I am. Why you, bro? I'm talking to a female. What you doing stepping to me like?" And Savoy was like, "Oh, here we both are." And basically, Savoy is the one that brought Denna to the Eolian that night. I love the fact that while Denna and Quoth were flirtation around Savoy only got annoyed after a certain bit of a time. You know what I'm saying? Because most of the time you'll be like, "Hey man, you need to cut this out, man, because you know, now that you know that she's with me, you should back off a little bit." And have you noticed that Savoy wasn't as handsy with Denna as he was with the barkeep in Anchors? I mean, he puts his hand on her hip, but not.
There's
like
a reason for that.
Well, what's the reason for that? That's what I'm going with more.
So this is why I had Savoy down in my notes to talk about.
Cool.
And it wasn't necessarily for the reasons that you did, which, number one, you're right. Like, Savoy, he is one of the boys. Like, even though it really is like Will Sim and quotes, Savoy is one of them because he had quotes back during the whole conversation up to a point, where he, even as they're being super flirty, he's just like, this is a little awkward, but it's quotes. So,
yeah.
But we will get more into this as we go on. But my theory on Denna to me is, I don't know if she knows who she is, and I think she's trying to figure that out. And I think that as she's doing that, she is researching old lineages. She went to Eolian because the rumors were that the streets were paved with gold. That could be because it is the last city that was left standing when all the others were destroyed by Lanray. She is now being seen with Savoy, who we talked about, I want to say like 3 episodes ago. So she is with Savoy because, as we said, he's got the oldest lineage that we had seen out of any character so far. We're going to see more characters as we move along that she's going to end up pairing up with. I don't think it has anything to do with relationships or connections or anything like that. I think it has everything to do with what they can do for her backstory, to figure out who she is, where she came from, what line she ties into, because she is, for all intents and purposes, she's playing the game, and that's all she's doing. She is not in this for anybody but her own history. And that's why I'd say,
I thought you was about to say, excuse me, just one thing. I thought you was about to say what Quoth's father liked to say: call Jack a Jack, call a spade, but always call a woman a lady. Or call
whore. Yeah. But
always call a woman a lady.
You always call a whore a lady, but yeah, I don't think that she's that. I think
you used to. I remember we had a conversation with us.
She might still be, but what I'm saying is, like, everybody that she pops up with, none of them are poppers. Like, none of them are people who have very small ties or small family names. Like, she is always with somebody that has history. If it's not them, it's the name, it's their lineage, it's the bloodline. Like I said, we're going to see another major person that we've already known that she's going to end up tying up with. And I think it all comes back to trying to figure out who she is and what her family is about.
I like that. Help me remember when they was on the road. Quoth did Quoth give Denna his name? I would say he had to, because that's why he knows her name. I have a reason why I said this.
I don't remember. That's something we'll have to go back and check.
Yeah, we have to check that. Leave a comment in below. You're like, yeah, he did. She almost wish he did.
Yeah, say did or didn't. We want help here. Yeah. Please engage with us.
Yeah. The way they react the second time, Denna is saying Quoth's name.
Does she say his name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's like saying the name like she's just not saying the name. She's like she's tasting the name.
But Savoy does also mention, he was like, I couldn't believe it was you. He could have looked at her and said, hey, that's my boy Quoth. Let's go find him.
He could have, but I see what you're saying there. And that's how Denna was like, I could just ask Savoy your name. And then Quoth says something really storybook like, yeah, but it's not given by me, so it's truly not my name.
While we're on that subject.
Yep.
That whole interaction.
I'm telling you, it was weird as hell, man.
I counted 6 7-word sentences that Quoth said.
Mm-hmm.
Was there 7 or was there 6? Because I only got 6, but it would be storybook to be 7.
It has to be. I don't know. I
So the ones that I
got to look
found,
at.
and we can come back and post this on the next episode if we want to, but like
okay.
the first one was, "I'm at your service, my lady." The next sentence he used was, "So we were ill-lit ships at night." The next one, I trusted someone would know the part," when he's talking about her singing, coming and singing. And when she's saying, like, you know, "Would you do this for me?" He says, "If you would ask me of it." Then Gerald's part here with the name, where he says, "My offer stands, my name for yours." And then the last thing that I had, he said, was, "As sure as I know my own." I didn't pay too much attention to Denna's, and maybe I need to go back and look at that, but it just from like memory and like hearing it and reading it, I don't think she said any 7-word sentences, but he did a lot.
Well, that's because we also know that Quoth is studying to be a namer, simply. So it actually comes more fluid, I'm assuming, from Quoth, especially after Master Elorin.
Elodin.
Elodin, god damn it.
Eladin.
Eladin, Master Eladin mentioned it to Quoth, and you know how, like I said, Quoth's mind is like a Brimson Steel.
Ramsden Steel.
Ramsden Steel. I keep saying Brimson Steel. You didn't correct me the last time.
I forgot, but when you said it that time, I remembered.
Yeah. So yeah. I just saw that. I thought that was kind of interesting, that how she was not just saying quote, she was actually tasting the name. I know it sounds weird when I say it like that. She was tasting
Is a
the
bit
simple
strange.
truth. Yeah.
That was the last of my points, Gerald. Did you have any others?
Who do you think it was? You think it was William, or you think it was Sim that with the Master Keeper and it was like, yeah, our boy Quoth. Have you looked at him lately, Master? He looking beat up.
I love that whole relationship that you see the circle of friends with Will, Sim, and Quoth. It really does. It reminds me of how, you know, you, Dave, and I really used to do the same things. You know, we could be thick as thieves at times, and we were those people who would be like, you know, Gerald got that bonus check this week. He promised us drinks. He's gonna float us home.
Drinks.
He's gonna float us home, and I wore my lead shoes tonight.
Oh boy, big boy. How about you put some shoes away? Okay, for you.
Yeah, I do like that little dynamic. Again, makes me really curious as to what's gonna happen. We'll see that toast later, where Quoth says, you know, to friends who deserve better than they got.
But now you got to question the whole thing. Is this a master lie?
Right, for real.
But I don't know, y'all. Y'all let us know how y'all like this new dynamic of the summary and banner back and forth between.
I do
Adam
feel
and
like we were a
myself.
little bit all over the place, but I felt like it was better
God,
conversation because it was more back and forth rather than us kind of going from the text a lot. So I enjoyed it. Like Gerald said, let us know in the comments. Shoot us an email if you would like. All of our socials are down in the description, including our email. And, you know, we would love to hear from you. Let us know what you think.
And if you also want the Milady to come back, if you ask nicely, I'm pretty sure she can find time out of her busy day to grace us for at least maybe not the whole session, but a moment or two.
Yeah, I think she's just feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now, so she might be back. But yeah, like Gerald said, show some love down in the comments. Let her know you miss her and you want her back, and maybe that will entice her to rejoin us.
Oh, well, y'all, it's been fun. Like I said, we hope to catch y'all next week. Make sure you hit that like, that subscribe button, and hit that notification button, because like Adam says, kids are getting back in school. Got a couple more projects that we're trying to get off the ground. So make sure you hit that notification button so you know when we're always posted.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys listening. Like we said, socials are down in the description. Do what Gerald said. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys next time.
Later.